Before we move on to the agenda items, I'm going to make a brief statement. Look, I think I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure I'm speaking for the rest of the members of the committee when I say that this is not something that I volunteered or wanted to do, to be on this committee, to chair this committee, but I feel like it's my obligation. I hope the speaker selected me because he believed I would be the fairest person to chair the committee to all sides. I know that I speak specifically for myself, but I'm sure it'd be echoed. I'm not interested in any sort of witch hunt for any particular person. My only motivation in this committee is to get to the truth, whatever that may be and wherever that may lead us. And also to provide some closure to the general public and to the Greene family. And I want to unequivocally state that I believe that law enforcement is a good thing in our society. But like every profession, there's like my own profession and everything else, there's good actors and bad actors across the board. And this is, to me, about finding out and holding people accountable that need to be held accountable in life. And so I think that's my duty and my role here. But I'm not out to ruin anybody's career. I'm not out to hurt any particular person, but I do want to get to the truth. And I think we could all agree that whatever happened or what happened to Mr. Greene is something that we should try to prevent as a society, wherever you come from. So with that in mind, I'm going to move forward with the business, but I did want to make that brief statement. And then we're going to have some time for discussion as this committee goes on. So the first item of business is committee rules of procedure. I provided it to the committee members to look at. I'd like to adopt it. It's basically the same rules that we have for a regular standing committee with a little bit of changes, really just to address the special nature of what we're doing, that the unnecessary rules are not involved. I have a motion from Representative Marcel to adopt. Seeing no objection, those rules are adopted. We can move on to item number 3, the election of a vice chair. I have nobody in mind. I'm open to nominations. I think in the spirit of what we've done with balancing Republicans and Democrats, it'd be my desire to have a Democrat be the Representative Bakla nominates Representative Marcel. Is there any objection to that nomination, or is there any other nominations? Representative Landry?
I nominate Rep. Jordan.
We have Representative Jordan nominated as the also for vice chairman. Is there any other nominations? Seeing that those are the two, we'll have a vote on the vice chair. I'll vote last.
Are we going?
We'll do, technically, let's do it this way. I'm going to take Jordan as a substitute motion from Representative Landry. So a yes vote is a vote for Edmund. A no vote will be technically a vote for, at the end of the day, will be a vote for Denise.
Okay.
I'm doing it as a substitute motion. So the original motion was for Representative Marcel to be the vice chairman. Representative Landry did a substitute motion, as I'm interpreting her motion, for you, Representative Jordan. So a yes vote is for Representative Jordan, and yeah, it would de facto be a vote for Denise. Madam Secretary.
Representative Bakala?
No.
No. Representative Hughes?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Jordan?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Landry? Yes. Representative Marcel?
No.
No. Representative Nelson?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Villio? No. Representative McGee?
Yes, we'll go with that.
5 yeas, 3 nays.
I think if I voted differently, we wouldn't have a vice chairperson. All right, moving on to there, we will move to discussion of witnesses and documents for upcoming meetings. Members, I'd like to open it up to y'all to talk about who you want to call, what kind of witnesses and what kind of documents you want to provide, and who you're interested in seeing. With that said, before we get started with that, I do want to tell you that I did receive a letter from Louis Unglesby, who is representing Colonel Reeves. And I'll read the letter out loud. It says, recent news articles have quoted you, I think meaning me, regarding the Colonel's potential appearance before your committee. Colonel Reeves will appear if requested. This news article stated you're concerned that you may have to resort to legal means to obtain this appearance and that he may refuse to participate. That is incorrect. Should you desire Colonel Reeves' appearance, please contact my office so we can work out those details. So that does mean Colonel Reeves will appear before the committee. So that's a good thing. I would like to have it for the next committee meeting if that's agreeable to the rest of the committee. I think that would be a good first witness, is to start with the first person in charge. But after that, I'll open it up to other people. I see Representative Bacala has his light on, so
I actually have a question, Mr. Chair. I think, part of who we ask to come here and testify in the documents that we request to be presented to this committee is going to largely be dictated by what the actual goal of the committee is. And I know we've discussed whether this is to look at administration or the events on the street, which I think can dictate who we need. So I don't know if collectively we need to clarify, or you can clarify for us exactly what the goals of this committee are, so that we can tailor the witness list and the documents list to that end.
thank you. My stated goal would be this. I think there's some unanswered questions. I think the video itself shows what happened to Mr. Greene. I don't know that we need to deep dive into the actual event. I think what the committee is interested in, everything that happened on May 10th, 2019, following that to where we are today, as far as the investigation, what happened as far as, who knew what, who knew when. I think so. To me, that's where this is at, because I think the video has been seen by most people and the media accounts have been there as far as what actually transpired. Not that we can't have a little bit of it, but I don't know that it's necessary to go deep into minute by minute on what happened on the actual event.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I think if we can certainly rely on the Senate hearings for anything information about that. Not that it gives us everything, but a large part we can rely on those Senate hearings and other information sources. So I think we're looking probably at who knew what and when, and that would be the governor, maybe the colonel, lieutenant colonel. I'm just trying to delineate for the purpose of deciding who we probably need, and you may have done it clear enough for everybody.
Sure.
But that I'll let you respond to that. But that's only just making sure I have my marching orders and directions.
No, look, I'm a collaborative person, and I want to make sure that we are all working together. I have, of course, what I'm interested in, but I know that there's other interests on this committee. I would tell you that I'm probably most interested in the Colonel Reeves, Mike Noel, probably Doug Kane, Lamar Davis, John Belton, and I apologize if I'm getting his name wrong, Triet Lee right now. Because of the phone wiping incidents, and I'm most curious about what the circumstances surrounding the wiping of the phones from my standpoint. But that's just my own particular person, and finding out what those communications were at that time and who they communicated with outside of their office as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I hope others will join in just so we can clarify our mission. I'm certainly open to other people's positions as well.
Sure, and Representative Villio has some comments she would like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition, those individuals that you mentioned or are witnesses that I'd like to hear from, in addition to that, my list includes former Sergeant Albert Paxton, Lieutenant Scott Brown, Sergeant Scott Davis, and Technical Support Supervisor Randy Hidalgo.
That sounds very good. And Representative Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you guys have pretty much covered it all. There might be a couple other names that I would add to the list. Probably somebody from, I think it's OTS, or whoever deals with the state phones and creating the policy. Going back to the phone wiping, I think that's important that we find out that information. And I guess my question is, before we call these witnesses, are we going to be allowed to subpoena exhibits and to get information so that, so we can really have something that we can really question them on. So,
So-
I would be interested in those phone and text messages prior to getting somebody up here, so we could at least have some baseline on which to question them.
That's a great question, and that's subpoena has been something that's been very curious out in the press. I have said it, and we're going to get everything that we can get through every means we have available to us. If we're going to need to subpoena documents because they won't produce them willingly, we look at there's two routes to go. We think that there's some legal opinion out there that the speaker could give us that power by letter, but to be safer, as far as safer ground, we're going to move forward on the first day of session with a House resolution to grant this committee the power to subpoena documents if necessary. So what I would tell you is get the documents list you would like requested and get it to me, and then once we identify that power, we will move forward with it if they don't provide it willingly. Hopefully everybody will provide it willingly and we don't have to use that, but if they don't, we will have a second hearing, is what I'm trying to tell you. And I know you want to prepare beforehand, I get that.
Right, but I think part of my
Oh, I'll get you back on.
over there. Yeah, part of my concern is maybe the records may not be in the hands of the state. It might be in some third party provider like AT&T or Verizon or whomever. And so if we have to go and get records from them prior to meeting, then I'd at least want to have the ability, if possible, to do that.
Yeah, and we will. It just those may be in a later meeting date than
That's
what's
fine.
on the horizon, is what I'm trying
All
to make
no
you aware of. And before I get to, I next have Representative Bacala. Before I get to him, I do want to say that we do have former Trooper Carl Cavalier in the audience today, who's present. I did have a brief conversation with him before I walked up here about his willingness to want to testify. He expressed that he would like to testify, and I think it's fair that what we're doing here in full disclosure, me and Carl have known each other from before. And I actually represented him in an unrelated, he wasn't even a trooper back then, matter. But I do want everybody to know that. So if there's anything, I don't want anybody to question that we're not being transparent. So I just want to put that out there in the public record that we do have an existing record, and I do know him and have a relationship with him. That said, Representative Bacala.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it wasn't mentioned already, perhaps we should invite the prior Colonel of State Police, Mike Edmonston, just to talk about the standard operating procedures during his tenure. Also, there's some question about what the coroner may have known in the initial autopsy. I suggest that he might be a relevant witness as we go forward.
You talk about the Union Parish coroner?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And kind of on a related matter, but not necessarily a person, I think we need to clearly establish what the duties, responsibilities, and authority are of everybody here, from the governor's office to the colonel. Jimmy LeBlanc is clearly in the chain of command, but I don't know how we do that. It's going to take a little bit of legal research, so I think perhaps it might be wise that we ask the Attorney General to supply us with an opinion about what everybody's role and responsibility in terms of oversight, in terms of authority, are in the chain of command from the governor down.
Okay, I think that's fair. Representative Villio now has a comment.
Mr. Chair, I am prepared today to state records that I would request.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to do that
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. I want to try and get as much as we can out for next week.
Okay. Number one, the evidence.com log for all viewing of the Ronald Greene incident captured on body cameras or police in-car cameras with the corresponding IP address assignment. Written protocol, policy, or procedure that provides for the reporting of in-custody death. Colonel Reeves' journal. Preservation letter circulated to the LSP regarding the preservation of evidence from the Ronald Greene incident. Written protocol, policy, or procedure regarding preservation of evidence. Written protocol, policy, or procedure outlining the disciplinary review process for use of force resulting in serious injury and or death. The transition document that was provided to Colonel Davis when he succeeded Colonel Reeves. Written policy regarding sanitization of LSP phones. Retention schedule in place at all relevant times from May 2019 forward for LSP records as well as Office of Governor records. Lastly, all records of communications by Colonel Kevin Reeves, Major Doug Kane, Lieutenant Colonel Mike Noel, Lieutenant Colonel Adam White, Lieutenant Colonel J.D. Oliphant, Major Bob Brown, Major Wayne Bedreen, Major Jason Turner, Captain John Peters, Lieutenant Colonel Chavez Kamen, involving the Ronald Greene incident, including but not limited to all communications by and between the governor and or representatives of the governor, to include both the office of the governor's staff and campaign staff.
Thank you, Representative Villia.
Thank you.
Representative Marcel.
Thank you. I believe that some of the people who I've thought we should request have already been stated. I think Mike Edmonston and certainly Colonel Reeves. But more importantly, I would like information on the officers that were there on the scene, what positions they're in, what positions they were in then and what positions they're in currently, those promotions, who made those decisions to make those promotions. So whoever those supervisors are, I'd like to have their information as well. So some of the background stuff on the people that were actually on the scene is certainly what I'd be looking for to get. And I guess, and the body cameras, of course, I guess we need to know who's housing those body cameras. I think I may have heard Vilio say something about them. But whoever the person that houses those, we certainly need those and the car cameras. I think that we need to have some kind of structure as to what, not only who we're going to call and what we're going to ask for in terms of documents, but how we're going to proceed with the questioning and what's the ultimate goal of what we're getting to. Certainly we all want to find out what happened, but and how that's gonna.
This is what I'm thinking. My initial thoughts before I got here today was that we'd have one state trooper day. But now what I'm hearing from the committee as far as what documents they want to request, it may take, I think it's a 2-committee meeting. One will call people, because some of these things, to find the documents, I think we're going to have to ask questions to find out who they are and who houses them and who has that hiring authority. And so I think maybe we'll start with a couple of the state troopers and ask for all the documents at once, and then whatever we don't get, we'll hold over to the second meeting with the rest of the state troopers. How's that sound?
Yeah, but I'm of the mindset similar to Representative Jordan, that we need the documents kind of in here before they show up to testify, so we would know what we're trying to question them about.
Right.
And, kind of be like the feds already have the evidence before we call them in here.
Okay.
Okay.
Representative Landry.
Yeah, I have some sort of threshold procedural questions. So these are a lot of requests for documents and people. Are we just going to send a letter? Is it going to be a public records request? Is it going to be a subpoena? Do you know the process?
So I think if they're my position would be, if it's a state agency who has it, we're going to send a letter requesting those documents. If they do not provide those documents, we're going to go through our legal means to obtain those documents. If it's an outside agency, we're going to have to go through some legal means to obtain them to begin with. So we'll just start right out the gate trying to obtain those legally. But I think My preference would be to respectfully request the agency to provide those documents at the outset. If they don't provide them, then follow through with legal means.
And will staff be coordinating those requests?
Yes.
Then a follow-up question. So these were a lot of requests of people and documents. Are we going to work under a general rule that anything any of us request will be requested from the committee, or do we have to decide as a committee that all the requests will go out? Because the number right now, I mean, I've done investigations like this. This could take 3 years with all this information.
Sure.
So is anything we request going to be sent out?
I'm going to filter some of it maybe and look at it, but I'm taking all of your requests as a discussion right now, and then I'll make the ultimate decision if it's too voluminous, and I'll have conversations with each member about their request, and I will troubleshoot that myself.
Okay. And will we be given an updated list or spreadsheet or something?
As best as staff
As
can.
best as you can. Okay. Finally, I tend to disagree with Rep. Bacala about getting an opinion from the AG's office on anything this early in this process. I think that could go haywire. I don't see why we can't ask the agency itself what their chain of command is, and if we have questions, then we can go further. I just think the sensitive nature of this committee and what we're investigating, we need to be mindful of trying to keep it as insular to this group as possible. We may need them to come in with other issues, but I'm just anticipating potential problems, and it would be great if we could keep this at a low simmer as long as possible before getting to a boil.
Sure. I think given the time frame that we're working under, I think we're gonna have an opportunity to answer questions before somebody can issue a legal opinion anyway. So I think that'll maybe naturally work itself out. But if it doesn't, we will get to that bridge. Representative Bacala.
Yeah, look, I'll add one more person to the list of potential people, and then it goes back to Representative Landry's comments. I think we need to add Jimmy LeBlanc to the list of potential witnesses. And I say potential, we can decide. And the issue I think that we probably need some clarification under is if you read Title 36, state police technically answers to Mr. LeBlanc and not directly to the governor. The colonel of the state police is an undersecretary of the Department of Public Safety and Corrections who answers to it. But we know in a practical sense that in practice that doesn't happen, that the state police colonel, even though he's a deputy secretary, technically under Jimmy LeBlanc, answers directly to the governor. And that's why I question, or I ask about getting a legal opinion. If we want to try to form it ourselves, I'm perfectly satisfied with that. I'm just trying to get some clarification about the colonel's.
Sure. I think the easiest way to do it is let's have Jimmy LeBlanc be the first witness, and he can testify about what the chain of command is.
Practice and statute, because it goes back, Title 36 clearly shows that the commander of state police answers to the secretary.
Sure. I think that's the easiest way to start off this process, and if somebody disagrees about the chain of command, they'll have the opportunity to disagree from the testifying thing.
That's good. I just want you to understand my purpose.
Sure. No, I think it's very important. Oh yeah. And then the following issue we have, I think is that enough discussion on witnesses from everybody else? Sure.
We have the documents already, but for the record, I think we ought to have it on in the discussion that any news articles published relative to this matter be supplied by the Pointer Library. I think we've got most of that already, and I think we just need on the record that any reports from the Senate relative to their hearings on this matter be supplied to this committee.
Sounds good. I'm going to add the only thing that we have not got, be very specific on this one, text messages between Lamar Davis and the governor from the time period of May 18th, 2021 to May 30th, 2021, in reference to any potential meetings with John Belton. I think that's the only thing that I don't have. That I would like to have requested. Is there any other? Oh, sorry, Representative Jordan.
Just quickly, I'm hoping that we have another opportunity to list witnesses as it may become necessary. But out of an abundance of caution, let me just add two names. I certainly would want to add Faye Morrison and Nick Manally, just out of an abundance of caution.
Sure.
Cause
It's not a final list. We're just
I
trying to get the
understand.
ball rolling today with who we want to bring
All right.
and who we want to get in front of.
So yeah, I would add those two as well.
All right. But we have one last thing we need to do is we need a name for our committee because right now we're just a special committee. So I'm going to offer up a name, and if anybody objects to it, let me know. I will name this the special committee to inquire into the circumstances surrounding the death of Ronald Greene. It's circumstances and investigation of the death of Ronald Greene. Anybody have any changes, modifications they want to make to that? Seeing no objection or modifications, that is adopted. All right, the next thing is we are going to meet next Tuesday, 1:30, same time. Does that work for everybody well enough? Is anybody objections to that? Where I think the first agenda items are going to be to have Secretary LeBlanc testify. We will try to coordinate with Colonel Reeves to get him to appear by that date. I have to go through his attorney. I'd like to do Mike Noel and Doug Kane and Viet Lee at that time as well, and Lamar Davis. Might as well just put them all on there. Is there any objection to having those witnesses and Carl Cavalier? Going to 2? Let's go back. It's Tuesday. I'm trying not to. The issue is operations in the morning, and we scheduled to go on the House floor at 2, so 1:30 might make it tough. Y'all want to try and do 11 on Tuesday? Does that give maybe a little bit of time for y'all with appropriations, and then that way we can bring in lunch if we have to and work through? How long do you think we'll be on the floor? We could come in after 2. Why don't we come in at 11 and adjourn if we have to, and that way we can finish back up, because that way, starting after we adjourn at 3 o'clock will make us all miserable. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll come in at 11 on Tuesday, and then we will adjourn as needed. Come in 11 and we're going to work it out. We have to figure it out from there. And Triet Lee. Mike Noel. Representative Marcel has a comment before we.
Let me ask another question. The public, the general public, will they have any opportunity to make any comments?
I'm going to open up every meeting for public comment.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And we're gonna move beyond
Aaron.
state police too. I think that's just the difficulty of their probably the biggest, our most voluminous persons.
I just
that we
want the
have to.
public to know that they'll have access to these
Absolutely.
meetings and an opportunity to comment.
Absolutely,
You
and I would
never
like to
know
get the
who
Green
knows
family in
something
one
and wants to
time.
come in and tell us something.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
yeah. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak today? Yeah. Come represent. Yeah, Carl, come on up. State your name and address for the record, please. Yes. Hold on 1 second. Let me turn the witness.
Carl Cavalier, 248 Sierra Drive, Houma, Louisiana. I'd just like to add a couple of names, if I'm allowed to. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
In reference to Representative Villio's list, I think it would be helpful to your list if you added, in reference to evidence.com, the audit trail, to request documents or names from the audit trail surrounding the Ronald Greene case, and also a person to add to your list in reference to what you have on your list, Lieutenant John Clary. And for Representative McGee, in reference to the list that you proposed, Lieutenant William Moraine, and if possible, retired Lieutenant Colonel Lane Barnum.
And Mr. Cavalier, can you please fill out one of those white cards over there that with your name and stuff, so we can have it for the record? And Miss Villia has a question for you.
Question, Mr. Chair, I would adopt Mr. Cavalier's request for that audit trail and also include the communications from Lieutenant John Clary involving the Ronald Greene incident, including but not limited to communications by between the governor and or representatives of the governor, to include both the office of the governor's staff members and campaign staff.
Thank you, Representative Villia. Is there any other testimony you would like to offer today, Mr. Cavalier?
I appreciate it.
All right. Is there any other comments that want to be made before we adjourn? Seeing, Representative Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be brief. Just wanted to offer brief comments, particularly for my constituents and the public, as we embark on this work. And it's unfortunate that we have to do this, but I do thank and applaud the Speaker for convening this committee, because as a co-equal branch of government, I think as the legislative branch, we have a duty and an oversight responsibility to seek the truth. I want to say, as we embark on this journey, I am very pro-police and very pro-law enforcement. I appreciate the hard work of our law enforcement officers each and every day. When they leave home, they don't even know if they're going to return. And so many state police officers are really good, decent people. It's unfortunate, though, in this incident, there were a few bad apples. At the end of the day, Mr. Chairman, Ronald Greene's death can be equated to a modern-day lynching. And that's just the facts. And it's imperative that we garner the facts and the truth surrounding his death, and that we leave no stone unturned. And Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate your leadership and commitment to transparency, because I think we not only owe that to the Greene family, but we also owe that to the citizens of Louisiana. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Hughes.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee? And seeing none, I'll also say that although I doubt that it would happen this way, I think the best outcome from this committee was that everybody did what they were supposed to do, right? I mean, that would be the best outcome. We'd go through every stone and everything, and everybody did what they were supposed to do. But I doubt that's what we're going to find, but that's the outcome we would all want. And so I think I want to put that on the record, that this isn't any sort of witch hunt other than to find out what actually transpired.